Hi, this is Russell from Low Fruit Solutions, and today we're going to be demonstrating the related articles feature of the Pro Blogger application. The purpose of the related article feature is to essentially show more relative content within your blog. So what does that mean? That means that if I'm reading a specific article that is about a subject, that your reader will see more articles related to the same subject. That means that if you have a large and extensive amount of blogs, that particular content will be pulled back across your entire set of articles, right? So if I'm reading an article about swimming, and you've written a number of articles about water sports, that articles that are related to swimming or have share tags with your swimming article and title, etc., or authorship will be pulled back accordingly, and that'll keep your readers more engaged, as they'll be able to obviously read things that are more relevant to what they started on, or if something piques their interest, they can follow that, and they can continue to engage and over a longer time period with your blog. And the longer people are on your particularly on your blog, realistically, the more time you have to engage and to obviously make other offers to them. So what does that look like? What does related articles look like? Well, first let's see what it doesn't look like. So here is my demo store. I'm just going to scroll down and click on one of these articles here. This is on the debut theme, and if we look in this article here, just minimize that, you'll see that it is just a standard article. There's no relation, no other, not even recent blogs are being displayed on here. So if I was reading this, I would just go on here. I would have to then exit the article, go back to the blog, the set of blogs, search for what I was looking for, and then read it, which is, it's not very efficient, and you're bound to lose people being, their attention span. So how do we enable related articles? Well, let's just go to the dashboard of this UAT store. We're going to click on Apps and click on Pro Blogger. This is a UAT version because we're on a demo store. Obviously, the UAT here won't exist on the live store. We're going to scroll down to related articles. Click Enable. We'll come back to what all these settings mean in a short while. Hit Save. This should turn this bar green. As you can see, it's been enabled. Now all the relative files we need have been copied across. Then what I like to do when I'm editing the code is to essentially duplicate the tab. This gives you the ability to quickly swap back and forth when you're doing when you're referencing the instructions. So we'll go to step 2 to the install. Now the first thing we must do for any item in Pro Blogger is make sure we've done the general install. If you've already done this install as part of one of the other features being enabled, then you don't need to do it again. This is a one-time only install. So we're just going to scroll down here, and we're going to copy this section, the Include Pro Blogger section wrapper. All right, we're going to go back to our other tab. We're going to click on Online Store. Now, before this, we always recommend that you back up your theme. It gives you a quick opportunity to be able to roll back any changes should you make any mistakes or not like what you've done. Probably not so much with this change because it's fairly minimal, but for others where you do an extensive amounts of code change, it's always good to either make a little change, save it, make sure that everything it looks as expected, and then continue, or to back up your theme and do your change, and then if there's anything wrong, you can revert back. To do that, you would just hit duplicate on the actions menu here, and it'll create a copy which you can then republish later. Anyway, let's go to edit code on the actions menu. We'll see all our theme files and assets on the left hand side and the output on the right. We're just going to click on Theme Liquid, and after this head section here, we're just going to do a carriage return, and we're going to paste that Include Pro Blogger section wrapper. We're going to hit Save. Right, so that's the general install done. We're going to go back here to the app, just collapse that general install accordion, go down to related articles. There's a whole bunch of instructions here. we're going to copy the most relevant item, which is this include Pro Blogger snippet related articles. Copy that. We're going to go back to our code editing window. Now, for older themes, you're going to want to edit the article.liquid, right? In this case, I've just opened the article.liquid, as you can see in the top here, and you can see it then references a section. Now, most new themes use sections, so you'll see that it references this article-template, and the little piece in the beginning here, section, tells you where it lives, right? So if I just collapse templates, you can see that it lives in sections. Sections live in sections. We're going to click on article-template. And the key to knowing that you're in the right place is that you will find this piece of code. It says article.content, right? Because what it's telling you is that the actual article itself is being, and it's the content that you put in your blog is being delivered via this piece of text. Now, what we want to do is, after this closing this div section, we're going to do a carriage return, and we're just going to paste that include Pro Blogger snippet related articles. Going to hit save. I'm going to go back to our blog. I'm just going to do a little refresh. And what we have here now is we have this responsive slider that is populated with articles that are deemed relative to this article. Now, I'll go into, in another instructional video, we'll go into how to build relationships between items and blogs. But this here is actually now a slider. If there were more items in here, we'd actually go responsive, but we'll change that in the settings. So let's go back to the app settings, right? So the install, you've done the liquid install, very simple, straightforward. Hit setup. Let's go to related articles and go through what these mean. Well, first of all, we're going to just change some of the display items, right? So the slider header here, what that is the text. Is this piece of text here that is sitting above your slider. Now, related articles is all very well, and it means what it says. But if we wanted to make it a little bit more engaging, we could change that text to, in this case, because our blog is very fruit orientated, we can say more about fruit as an example. Now, the enclosed H4 and H3, this is standard HTML, so if we wanted to change that to a different type of header, in this case we want to make it a bigger one, we'll change the 4 to a 3, and that will change things. Article content length, what this does is it determines the number of words, so if we look here, the number of words that are displayed in the slider underneath the header text here, right? So if you wanted to look, let's just close that because we're done. If you wanted to look a little bit more, less busy, you could change down the number of words, or if you wanted to include more text so that you could give a sort of a prelude to what the article content is, you can increase it. In this case, we're going to change it to 0. We don't want any text. Now, the slider size is the maximum number of returned items, right? So what that means is that when it goes off and looks for relative articles, what it does is it will find, in this case, a maximum of 10, and it will sort them by the most relevant to least relevant, right? In fact, what it does is actually finds all the articles and sorts them, and then it takes the top number based on what this value is. So we're going to leave it as 10 because more values are good values, and the only time you would decrease that is if you're using it in the sidebar, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. And then items to display is really the number of items that are currently displayed in the slider. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as that says here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change that down to 4, and when we're going to hit save. Right, this is just to change the look, the actual display value of the related articles. So let's have a look and see what changes that have happened. So I'm just going to refresh. Right, so let's scroll down, and you can see now we have 4 items in the slider, and actually because we have 5 values, it'll now slide. Now the slider is responsive, right? And I'll demonstrate what that means. It basically means it will shrink to the size of your window. So you can see there we've got it now only will display 3 because you've crunched down the space that it was originally in, and it'll just slide through all the values. So we're just going to increase that back again. And going back to the other settings, what these portions mean are how it determines what is important. What are the matches, right? So title. Now, title means that there are shared components between the tags of your existing article and the titles of other articles. So if in this case, I have a tag of pineapple, and if I say it's the most important, then items that are tagged that have the word pineapple in their title will be deemed very important, right? So if the scale here is from not important, which basically means ignore that value. Mildly, it means it effectively gives it a score of 1. Very important, a score of 5. Most important, a score of 10. And then it'll add up all these scores to work out how much value an article has. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that to mildly important. We're going to change tags to being the most important, which means that the articles that have the same tag. So if one article A has pineapple and fruit, and article B has pineapple and fruit, and everything else only has fruit, then those two articles have the most relevancy between them, right? Because they share the most amount of tags. And then we have author relevance. Now, if you have multiple authors and you want to show things that are, if you have a specific guest author and you want their articles to show up to be most important, that they show their own articles as opposed to other stuff, even though they may have wide-ranging subjects, then what you would say is that is the most important piece. In this case, we're saying it's mildly important because I think it's more relevant that you show items across the blog that have shared characteristics, because that way then you get the most out of your blog, right? So I'm just going to change that, and what we should see here is we should actually see a change in the ordering actually, because this one shares too much stuff, it's going to be the same, but the ordering here would have changed. So how else? Putting related articles at the bottom of your blog is one way to do this. It may not suit your theme. You may want to put something else here. By the way, you can also see the headers changed as I have increased the size of it, and you can see now there's no text below. Another way to display the related articles is also in the sidebar. So here's an example of that. Right, this is a different theme, and it has a sidebar. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right. And what we've done here is we've put it in, just underneath the existing menu items. So that way, if you're reading along, you can see that you want to put something else at the bottom, or you just feel like this is the right place to display related articles on the left-hand side, then we can do that. The trick for putting items in the sidebar is that you really need to change one thing specifically. Is the items to display needs to be 1, because that means otherwise you're just going to run out of real estate, right? Because you only want one to display, and then everything else will be scrolled through. This is also probably the only time that you would want to probably have less than 10 items in the slider, because otherwise you're going to end up with 10 dots at the bottom here, which may look a bit busy. So you may say, okay, I only need, in this case, I've only returned 4 values to display this. Right, so the setting for that would just be slider size, change it to 4, items to display 1, and then that would work for you. Okay, that is the related articles slider install and setup. Thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful, and we'll have another video specifically on how to set up relationships, or more specifically around setting up your blog with tags, etc., so that you can get the best value out of this and a lot of other things. Thanks for your time. Cheers.